Hello, Lucas here, and welcome to this amazing Marvin video review and tutorial. Amazing Marvin. So the review is also amazing, of course, but the tool is actually named Amazing Marvin. A highly requested video for me on this channel, and I'm happy to walk you through my setup which I created. It's a setup that I've built for getting things done, and you can download it yourself using the link in the description. For just $4.99 you can download and import it into your Amazing Marvin setup, so you don't have to do all the work of recreating it. If that is what you want to do, that's totally fine. You can stick around until the end of the video and follow my guides how to build this yourself instead. Let's first get started with a walkthrough of how you can actually use it, and then we'll proceed with building it. Alright, allow me to first show you what I've built here in Amazing Marvin. It's a setup that is, like I said, built for GTD, so you may see some familiar terms if you've already been following this method for a while. But if you haven't yet, that's okay. I'll walk you through how you can use it step by step. On the left-hand side, we have the sidebar, which allows us to access different views. Here we have another sidebar, which allows us to see various lists. Here's the main view, which is the most important one, because we can access several of those lists and more from the top here with buttons that I've custom created. And we are first looking at the inbox here, which is a great place to start, because first we want to cover how do we fill up our system with new input on the go, on our laptop, or anywhere else. Wherever you are, whenever, you need to be able to do that quickly and easily. The first way to do it is by using this button which I created, Add to Inbox. All you have to do is press it and add a task or anything that comes up in your mind. Press enter and there you go, it's part of the inbox. The same goes for this button here at the right bottom, and same story. You can add either a task or a project directly from there to the inbox as well. A bit more manual way to do it, it's hidden, but once you scroll to the list, you can add a task or project from here. You can also use emailing to email directly into the Amazing Marvin system. You get a unique email address that you can use, and once you save that in your email contacts, for example, anything you email there will end up in the inbox as well. So let's get to work and actually process an item, see how we can clarify whatever we've captured. Here we have an item that we just created, my task. Let's make that a bit less ambiguous, shall we? What we can do is navigate to the item here and change the text so we can give it an actionable name. For example, let's pretend that we are Gary the goat farmer and we want to think of a name for a new goat that we will soon adopt. So what we can do is find inspiration online. List of goat names, maybe find list of goat names. We can use Google for that, which is a context that we have here through a label. And the last thing we need to do is move it into a specific list out of the inbox, of course. The way we can do that is by editing it and then selecting a new list. Let's say this is a standalone item, so we don't have to create a separate project for it, just for example's sake. So what we can actually do is just select the main project list. From there, we can also schedule it by giving it a due time, an end time, and these are two different things according to Amazing Marvin. One is more soft than the other. A start time even, a review time. So if you want to kind of check in on the progress. You can also estimate a duration. So let's say we need 10 minutes. Well, we can just select that from here, or we can enter an alternative time from here. We already added a label by typing it, but if we hadn't, we could have added it here as well. So you can add any label here to define a context that you have. Dependencies is something we will cover in just a moment, as well as priority levels, which are accessible from here, and frog levels. Now, I think this is a bit much. This is based on the concept of Eat That Frog, a book by Brian Tracy. Good book, good concept. Basically, it says, do your most dreaded task first thing in the morning, because then the rest comes easy, just as eating a live frog would make anything else appear easy. I think it's enough to just classify it as either, yes, this is one of those eat a frog type of tasks or not. Amazing Marvin decided to have 4 levels of gradation there. I guess if you want to use it, you can, but you can also just select one. So a lot of options for clarifying, but for now, let's just say this is the way we want to do it. And from here, we can either access the list of items, projects, as well as tasks from the left-hand side under the project list. But more interestingly, we can navigate to the context which I've named research here. It's a bit confusing maybe because the label is Google, but you can name these anything you want. And this pulls up a list of items, a list of tasks that have this associated label. So here we have a list of code names as well as tractor options. Why? Because we have a project open for buying a new tractor. That's a multi-step outcome. And Gary wants to get a new tractor for his farm. So he has this item as the first actionable item. And if we go to the master list, we can actually look at this in a bit more detail here. Because from this project, we have research tractor options, but also a dependency named make shortlist. And basically what this is trying to say is we cannot start doing this until this item here is complete. And it makes sense because you cannot make a shortlist if you haven't created a longer list first through online research, right? So the way to do that is by selecting a dependency from here. And this can be a project or a specific task within a project. So you can get really narrow here, and this helps to predefine sequential projects. Now let's say, what if you have an item that isn't actionable directly, but instead it could be an agenda item. So Gary the goat farmer actually has a goat named Gary as well. I guess he really likes his name. And he believes in communication with his goats. He wants to take good care of them. So one of his agenda items is asking Gary the goat how his day was. What we did here is create a specific project within the agendas list and then adding a task for any individual question or talking point that you may have. So if you have a specific meeting, for example, this is also a great place to put that. You can also add items you're waiting for from a third party in here. In fact, there is a specific button here to see only those regardless of who they belong to. Here, for example, we have a goat jacket that we've ordered from a company named goatsupplies.com. So you can add those as well as separate lists within the agenda's main list, basically, to organize items that you either need to talk about or that you're waiting for. Now, let's say you don't want to do something right now. You can't, or you don't want to, whatever it is. Then you can actually use someday maybe, a familiar concept like a back burner, basically. Here, how you add this is a bit counterintuitive though. Instead of adding this item to the specific list, what you actually do is basically push an existing item into this someday maybe dimension. And I know that sounds a bit strange. So let's just look at how that works. Let's say, for example, this specific task about finding a list of goat names isn't as urgent or crucial as we first thought. And we want to put it on the someday maybe list. Instead of actually moving it to that list, which we can't even see here, what we actually need to do is press this button here. This basically puts it on the back burner. So let's press it and we can see it's now blocked as well. And now, if we go back to the main view and we press someday maybe, we will see that this item is now part of that. The way to remove it from there, put it back into view, is by also activating it from here. So instead of moving it to a different list, you just use back burner and activate. Next up, let's look at reference material, non-actionable information basically. Here I've added an article that explains how to take care of a goat. You can add notes here, and you can even add attachments. Now I can't show this because I'm on a trial account here and they don't allow that for those types of accounts. But if you do commit to this tool, you will be able to upload attachments like PDFs, for example. The way to organize that is up to you. You can create sublists within the reference main list, or you can also use labels and then use filters to filter for a specific label within the reference list. That is really up to you. It's super customizable, and that's a recurring trend that we'll see as we explore this tool some more. Last up, we have the Higher Horizons button here in this menu, which allows us to define those areas of focus that we have. For example, Gary the goat caretaker, Gary the business owner, Gary the father, whatever your areas of focus are, you can define them here. I use subtasks here to actually define them, and they can actually change from time to time. But if you change jobs, for example, you maybe want to check it off and maybe add a replacement. My vision and purpose, you can also add those in here and define them as you see fit. A cool way to further elaborate on it if you wish is by using the toggle note option here, which allows us to adds clarification, right? You want to define your vision, you want to define your purpose. Well, this is how to do it. Next up, let's look at a different view, which is the goals view. And in here, we can define our goals in any way we see fit. I like the SMART methodology. I actually did that here by saying Gary wants to adopt 20 goats within, well, 74 days, whatever that date is. And it currently has an active status. You can get super granular in here, add specific phases, tasks, projects, and trackers and habits to this goal if you wish. For now, though, I will just go to the settings and show you how this works. From the editing menu, you can add a title, for example, the type of goal, a deadline or no deadline. You can mark progress in any way you see fit by using tasks to aid you in the progress calculation. It goes very deep, as you can see, using a habit grade. I think this goes a bit too far personally, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Check-in tasks, deep links, mark done, and deleting the goal is all possible from here. So you have to use this separate view for that. And the same is true for the calendar, which you can access from here. See any due items, start dates, appointments, whatever. So it's great to have that all within the same app. And the same is true for habits. So for Gary, the goat farmer, perhaps he has a routine to buy goat food twice a month. This is just an example of a habit that we can add into the system. And by editing it, I can show you it in a bit more detail. You can actually also say trying to quit. So maybe you're trying to quit smoking and you have a specific way of trying to get there. Again, super detailed and granular in how you can set this up in terms of the intervals, the settings of how you want to see it, when and where and everything. Yeah, it goes very far. Some could argue too far, and I would understand that. So that's why I'm not going into all the details here. But if you wish, you can open up the app for yourself and, of course, set it up in the way you see fit. I think the simple version is good enough, which is why I'm going to stick with that in this showcase. So that's it in terms of showing you around how this actually works, how you can use this in the day-by-day and organize your life. If you want to get to work on this and adjust it, make it your own, then you can use the link in the description. And for just $4.99, you can download this as a file that you can then import into your amazing Marvin tool. And I'll show you exactly what you need to do so. Go to the menu here and press Workflow Templates. Then go to Import and press Load Workflow. And that's where you'll select the file that you can download using the link in the description. Now, if you want to build it yourself, then you can follow along, stick with the video, and I'll show you how I did that, and you can recreate it and customize it as you build it. To get started with building this, first we'll need to look at the exact features that I've activated in order to create this setup. And this is needed as there are, and I counted them, 94 specific features that you can toggle on or off. It's pretty ridiculous if you think about it. What you can do is go to the menu and press Features/Strategies. And instead of going through all the details, I'll just quickly walk through the ones that I turned on in order to achieve this. Category context, task notes, subtasks, labels, priority levels, task reminders, quick add, quick jump, skinny sidebar, sidebar, calendar, duration estimates, agenda, smart lists, fast add buttons, smart list day alerts, top mini list, project shortcuts, time blocking, snooze, eat that frog, saved items, templates, super focus mode, the wall, procrastination count, line marker, background color marker, text color marker, icon marker, most important projects, back burner, sequential projects, dependencies, rollover scheduled tasks, truncated lists, email to Marvin, habits, goals and objectives. These two are on by default, the API and the Zapier integration. I'm not using them. Deep links, custom sections, time tracking, stillness warning, missing next steps warning, custom squares, custom text links, custom screens, end dates, review date, right-click menu, hover button actions, time block sections, procrastination wizard, start dates, mobile sidebar, And global filter. Well, there we go. I think that was about 50 of them at least, but you can see there are even more. But those I personally think don't contribute to productivity as much. But if you feel like any of these could be useful, then you can access them from the features menu and activate or deactivate them. And that is how I built this screen. So for example, here, this is the custom text link setting. That is something we activated. And from here, you can add and configure whatever buttons you want to see in this top menu. For example, I created an add to inbox button. The way I did that is by adding a new item, choosing the type as fast add button, and then creating and then selecting add to inbox. So if you want to create a new one, you can do so here, click to edit, and then click set up fast add buttons. And from there, I created the action to be assigned to category/project being inbox and the title being add to inbox. So from here, you can also add to any specific filter if you want to, or create any other type of button of this nature. Let's go ahead and delete that again and look at an example for context-based buttons, also important in my opinion for GTD. The way to do that is by adding a new item, and there are two ways to do it, frankly. You could either select the label directly. Here we have the Google context, for example, and then it just spits out that name and the color and the icon. You can actually rename it and change the color here if you wish, as well as the icon to anything. So maybe here we can do a search one. Then we wouldn't even need the emoji. It's actually a bit more elegant. The way I did it here was maybe a bit of a workaround, but you can also create and configure smart lists. I created those here. This is a way to also use more advanced filters when setting up these buttons. For farm, I said has farm label. That's simple. Has Google, has laptop. But you could, if you want to go more granular here and maybe combine specific time estimates, all of that is possible. I will show you by editing. And here you can see all of these different items that you can filter for. Title has time. Time estimate is something shorter than, longer than. Extremely detailed, of course. Be careful, I would almost say, because you may filter out items accidentally and not see as much as a result. I like to keep things simple, and that's what I did here. But now you know how to build this yourself and perhaps go more granular if you wish. After all, this is just an example, and you may have your specific quirks for this system. For something maybe I showed earlier how this works by using the back burner functionality, and so that is also the filter. Back burner on back burner, that is the condition in order to show up in this smart list. And the same is true for waiting for, has the waiting label. Quite simple, really. And some of them are just a reflection of the lists themselves that we've created here under the master list functionality. So here you can add a main category, as it's called, and that will function as a list. And from there back to the main view, we could then edit this here, add a new item, and select category/project. And that's not even all, right? You can see external links are also supported. You can also link to goals if you want. Personally, I don't think that's necessary for this particular system, but it's all there. You can even go further with design. Pretty ridiculous how far you can go, honestly. But hey, that's something you may like. So you can't say that there's no freedom. And that's really the main work you have in store for you when setting this up, because by activating all these features we did previously, most of them kind of show up naturally in specific settings that they apply to. For example, the procrastination wizard just shows up by default as an option for any task, and you can open it from there. Now, whether you will use it, I don't know, but it is a pretty cool feature to see that it kind of prompts you to take a deep breath, relax. No one's going to make you do this task. This is your life, and you decide whether you want to tackle this task or not. Why do you want to do this task? There are negative consequences if I don't. It brings me closer to a goal. It's important to me, and I'll gain positive feelings such as. So you can see it's really AI-based, kind of almost personal psychology assistant to help you overcome procrastination. And I think the idea of that is nice. Whether the execution of it is well done is up to you, whether you would use this. But I like that it's there. I like that they really thought about the user experience here. Tracking time, snoozing, time estimates, notes. We saw a couple of these already. Deep link, scheduling, and by editing, we can see even more options. And those options we activated in the features and strategies menu. So if you don't see something you do want to see, always go back here to menu, features and strategies, and see whether you've toggled it on or off in the first place. From here, you can also toggle on or off attachments, which I referred to earlier in the reference material list. Only available if you currently don't have a trial. So you need a real paid account, but then you can add these. And I understand that they don't allow this for anybody. After all, it can take up a lot of disk space. And let's have a final look here at the settings. Look at the ones that I have activated. I have activated undo or redo, category and project full screen, always show add buttons in empty lists. I don't have copy task as markdown, but you can see, again, it just goes so far with the settings you can turn on or off. So feel free to pause this video if you want to do an exact copy, but you can also just read through these in your own account and see what makes sense for you. This includes the design of the app, the theme of the app, including colors. A dark mode is there, which is nice. Always nice to see. Even the text style, the thickness, the fonts, it's just, I mean, I feel like I've said this, I sound like a broken record now, but it just goes so far with how far you can customize it. It is insane. It is insane. And whether that's good or bad, I'm going to leave it up to you to decide. I think for some people, this is overwhelming. Frankly, for me, it is a bit overwhelming, even though I like a bit of freedom to customize my own setup. But I feel like I could spend hours upon hours here to tweak this. And that may be a bit of a problem if you just want to get things done in a simple way. Lastly, we have archive and stats. And here we can see any tasks that we've completed or moved around in the past couple of days and weeks. So that's nice to have, although you should always take this with a grain of salt, right? Task marked completed isn't necessarily work done. After all of this here is just a representation of your actual work. You still need to do that in order to move forward. Well, how do we feel, guys? I think it's time to wipe the sweat off your forehead, because this was quite an exercise in how much tweaking and customizing we did. And I kept it minimal. Trust me, we could have gone 10 hours long with this video if we really looked at every single feature that amazing Marvin has to offer. So that is my word of warning as well. Keep it simple. Tweaking your system is fun, but none of that has to do with real productivity. These apps should serve you to do the right things at the right time by letting you know what needs to be done in an accessible way. But beyond that, checking the check mark or pressing all these time estimates, specific frog levels or whatever else, that's just symbolic. It's just symbolic overlay, a representation of what actually needs to be done in the real world. So that's my word of caution here. Use the app if you want to. I recommend just downloading my template so you don't even have to think about setting it all up. But don't get lost in the rabbit hole of tweaking this ad infinitum, because this is one of the most flexible, customizable tools I've ever seen. So it has that danger with it. But if you want to use it, feel free to give it a try. Use the link in the description and let me know how it goes in the comments.